So Ben, you mentioned your partners a couple of times. They're into real estate, into structuring Propco Opco. So how did you meet them? How do you know, like more like thinking of it, if you have to find a partner, you want to go into multi-unit franchise partner, how should I think about it?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question. I mean, if you have good partners, I mean it really is 1 plus 1 equals 3. Um, if you have bad partners, it does just the opposite, and you have someone that's either dead weight or is not contributing, financially, or I've always said if you're going to be partners with someone, they generally need to do one of three things. They either need to uh, bring some expertise in the field, no matter what that field is. Two would be they need to provide capital, and three would be sweat equity. So if they're not doing one of those three things, then they don't need to be a partner. So that's like the easiest way that I try and look at it. And ideally, your partners are good at other things that you're not good at. If we're both good at operations, both suck at finance or real estate or whatever, then like that's not a terribly productive partnership. But if we have one partner that's really good at real estate and one partner that's really good at operations, that's when it's 1 plus 1 equals 3. We could probably do a whole nother interview and chat on operating agreements and things and ways that I've seen people screw each other over. And everyone always goes into a partnership thinking of all the good things that happen, and they rarely want to think about all the bad things that can happen. And I think it's always critical to address those on the front end of what happens if someone dies, what happens if someone gets divorced, what happens if you have to file bankruptcy in another business, what happens, there's all these what ifs that if you don't figure it out on the front end, and then you hit that thing, and then you're trying to figure it out after that point. I mean, it could just be an absolute disaster. It could be a disaster with the bank or whoever's holding liens, or it's almost certainly going to be a disaster with that partner and that partner's family. So I mean, I would say that that's a pretty common mistake I see with people that are kind of new into franchising or business in general that have partners, is like, and it's awkward to do this. Like literally the partners and a lawyer all need to sit in the room and literally just sit there and think of all the worst case scenarios, and then think through of, okay, if this happens, this is going to trigger this. If this happens, this is going to trigger this. So that way, when the really hard, bad shit happens, it's just, all right, this is what the operating agreement says. This is what we agreed to. There's no arguing. There's no fighting. Hopefully no one has to end up in court.
Like a prenup.
Yes, exactly. That's basically what an operating agreement is, in a sense, is a prenup. And you're like, how did if I'm pissed off at this partner, how do I get out? He's pissed off at me, how does he get out? Then how do we decide on the valuation? There's just all these things that people just never think of until they get to that point, and then once they're at that point, it's too late.